Danielle, can you hear me okay?
Are you? Yes, Tom, we can hear them.
Very clear. But,
Thank-
Heather, great. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
I'm glad to be here. This is a little bit of an earlier night for me usually.
Yes, I know. So thank you.
Thanks.
Just one question before we start. Tom, did you get any dates from WHC for the trust meeting?
I've got 2 dates and I'm trying to confirm. One of them was the first Tuesday in February. What is that? The
11.
5th, I think?
Yeah, no, 4th.
4th. Does that work?
Think so. Yep.
Okay. I will confirm with them tomorrow and I'll send off a message to all of you.
It
Okay.
won't work for the select, for the select one. It won't work for Amy, but you know, we could probably do a meeting without her.
What's the next available one? Because I think the other one was the 3rd Tuesday that they gave me in February.
They're
Sometime in
the
May.
1st and the 3rd. No, it won't work for Bill either, sorry.
That's a vacation.
All right. Bill had given me a couple of dates. Let me send out a message to all of you tomorrow and we'll narrow it down. Okay.
Keep it up,
Okay,
June.
the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays don't work for either Bill Steglitz or Amy, so.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Wednesdays, what about Wednesdays?
Wednesdays are probably the better day.
Yeah,
All right. Let me try to get that arranged with WHC. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Yep.
except that all of them except the 5th are taken. We got a building committee meeting and then a budget workshop on the 19th.
Oh, well,
Let me get them to come back with 3 Wednesday dates and let's see what we can pull off. All right.
all right, we'll give that a shot.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Okay, what time is it? It is 6:02. I will call the special budget meeting to order at 6:02. The Pledge of Allegiance. We did it last time, so Justin.
Pledge allegiance
To the
Flag
of
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
And no karaoke.
Citizens' comments? Okay, educational update?
We don't really have one, except that this evening I sent out a message that we do have Mystery Dinner Theater on Friday night, which is always a fun night. Our drama students, under the direction of teacher Tom Smith, will be putting on a drama production along with our culinary students are gonna create the meal. We sent out a message about the Celtics tickets that are on sale now, so if anyone would like to buy one, you could see Jessica. And then just letting everybody know that, what was the first thing? Oh, what was the first message, Danielle? Mystery Dinner Theater, there was 3
A
things.
survey.
Oh, the survey. We extended the survey into this week because we only had about 148 responses and we wanted to capture some more. So.
Okay. Alrighty then, so we're gonna be discussing the presentation of the budget. But first, let's look at the meat of the budget. Does anybody have any questions, suggestions, comments to make on the actual numbers for the budget? Hearing Bill Birch talk last time about the things that he keeps putting off, pushing away, and looking at his list of items that keep popping up. This is what we got, the rut we got into a long time ago, ever since I've been on the board. The track being the #1 thing that kept getting put off. put off. I realize that was a huge amount of money. But he's talking about the boilers in the middle school. He's talking about all these other little bitsy things that keep going wrong.
Right, so the boilers at the middle school are gonna be replaced under the HVAC project.
I understand
Yeah.
this, but there's other things that happen
Mhm.
that we don't know. There's leaks and things. I would like to put in a contingency in his department. The town has a contingency account. They always have it. They have a 60,000 or more contingency account. Why can't we put one in?
Well, I just thought that's what the non-lapsing account was for.
Well, that's true, but if we actually put it in our budget, I mean, it's more, it's transparent, it's there, and we know we can justify it. I understand the non-lapsing account is there too, but if we put it in the budget, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, they'll probably take it away from us, but at least we're honest with it. You know, here it is, there's whatever we want, 100,000, 50,000. Let's put something in our budget as a contingency in the maintenance department for these things that are gonna happen. Yes, Justin?
So, it's funny, because I think Melinda and I had recently had a quick discussion about this. And I think putting a contingency in our budget leaves it to be consumed, potentially consumed by other things than what we're leaving it contingent for. For example, we put 100,000, let's say, we put 100,000 contingent for plant, and next year we have to hire 7 more paras. That 100,000 is gonna go and flip right over. The thought I had, and I was gonna suggest it tonight,
Okay.
is that we have a discussion with the Board of Finance about, similar to what they did with the lockers, putting some value of money aside under a contingency-like agreement for the Board of Education in the case that we have a plant issue that comes up, or in the case we have a downfall with
Okay.
special ed. And what this does is it serves two masters. It gives us the contingency we need, but it helps to build the town surplus so that we stay above that 5% and we keep the state out of our business.
Yes.
My 2 cents on it.
Is there a way to frame that conversation, because the town moved from, they originally had like that roof funding for the library, where they would put so much money away every month for the library roof, and now it's since changed to, I believe it's a municipal building maintenance fund. That could be something to request, potentially, rather than it have its own separate line and something that could maybe, at least it has a place, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I
Accounting
said,
purpose-wise.
they did the 25 grand for the lockers, right?
Right.
If we keep it as a Thompson Public Schools capital building fund or something,
Okay.
that those dollars go into,
Okay.
but they sit in the surplus. I don't know if that, and I'm looking at Mr. Steglitz, I don't know if anybody can see. I don't know if that can float, I don't know if he can join the discussion.
I don't know.
And I can't speak for the Board of Finance. However, if it can happen. But I will say that last year anyway, there seemed to be a move to consolidate those types of funds into, that's why it moved from a municipal roof fund to a municipal repair fund. And they have earmarked within there things specific to the school, like the lockers, and specific to the town, the Riverside lights, Riverside Park lights come to mind. Because they did a similar thing with the Riverside lights, in that they sort of put the first half of that into that municipal repair fund. So we could petition to,
Does that money sit in the surplus side, or does it sit in a budgeted line side?
it sits in the surplus side.
Okay, so it would
Okay.
serve two masters.
All right, well, but we have that non-lapsing account, so they're gonna say go there
Right.
instead.
I do believe that anytime we approach them for money, and once again, I can't speak but for them, but I would think, we shouldn't be surprised if they point us to to the non-lapsing
I
account
agree.
first.
But-
Yeah, they'll point us to the non-lapsing, which, you know, in all fairness, is where we should go. But I'm not talking huge projects, I'm talking, you know, emergency stuff that comes up.
Well, our emergency stuff can become huge projects very quickly.
You're right.
And so this is we don't have a very robust savings account as a town. So it's every year, whether it's part of our budget to be put into a municipal, I forgot the word, savings account essentially. Say 50,000, maybe it'd be 100,000 would be wonderful, but that's not going to happen. 50,000 every year, and then we didn't use it this year. So we have 100,000 next year. Hey, 3 boilers blew up. Well, is that $100,000? Boom, it's there. And yes, the non-lapsing account. That non-lapsing account that we have from last year, that's a once in a generation thing. That's going to get depleted very quickly as soon as boilers start blowing up.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? So Bill and I, we're watching the healthcare percentages, right? And so I think when you budgeted at 10%. There was a meeting last week, and the number is fluid, right? We don't know yet, but it looks like it definitely could go down to 9%. So Bill and I talked about this today, so that's $23,000 worth of savings on this current budget. Could we, when that number comes up, can we say, rather than you cut us this amount, please slide that money into this contingency account for emergencies? But we know already it's probably around $23,000 today. If it goes down to like 7%, then it would be even more money that we could ask them to slide into the contingency account. Rather than last year, if you recall, we got everything we asked for, but the numbers came down in healthcare, so I think there was about $48,000 that came off the top. And rather than them reduce that, entirely, maybe slide it somewhere else, so in case a boiler blows up. There is a boiler at Mary R. Fisher that Bill is very concerned about.
Right, and he doesn't have that budgeted for.
Correct.
And that's not in the HVAC project.
No, it is not.
All right, so
Yeah.
that would come out of our fund or somewhere.
Right.
Okay, Tom has his hand up. Yes, Tom?
I'm just wondering, if we could get this kind of as a tax, where we used to do this with the buses, we would put the money aside, and then the town would pull the money. If we did it according to the accounting practices, call it a cap, would that suffice on the Board of Finance that it would not be cut at a later date?
No, because they cut capital on us. I just want to be transparent about this. Yes, we have our non-lapsing account. And I'm not sure where it stands right now.
I'd
but-
actually have to refresh it. I haven't looked at it in a while.
Yeah, right. But we don't want to keep depleting that either, because we don't have it this year. It's not going to be anything in there this year.
No.
And if we put it in the budget, something like 50,000 in the budget, if we use it, we use it. If we don't, it goes into, replenishes the non-lapsing account. If we get it.
Right.
I mean, we have to be realistic. Once this budget goes to the Board of Finance, it could get cut.
Right, which is why I think where we're at is the 0.8 is a reasonable number, and we have the discussion with the Board of Finance about putting a capital dollar amount aside. And like I said, it serves 2 masters, 3 even. They have control of the money but it's earmarked for capital for us, for building pieces, and it sits in that town savings account or the surplus, which
So capital
Rob
for
what he
a
wants.
new boiler in the elementary school?
I mean, pick the big number on Bill's we talked about break, replace, reliability. Pick the big number on that, and that's what we asked them to put aside, and there's a business justification behind it. I mean, we're looking at $43,000 just for the fuel pump situation, as I understand it today from the math from last week. Because it's $15,000 as we sit and $7,000 a pump times 4 pumps. That's $43K. And that's where we sit right now. So, I mean, that non-lapsing is depleting quickly. And yes, we haven't had to go to the Board of Finance with it, but it also looks, and it also looks like we're spending money on it looks, because it's coming out of the Board of Ed budget, looks like we're spending money on education when it's not really towards education. It's towards a town building that we're taking the money for. So it's my same argument I had with the roof 3 years ago. If God forbid something happened and the entire school education system in Thompson went someplace else, this building would still be here and would still need to be maintained by the town.
Of course.
The shell and what keeps it alive is the town's responsibility.
Okay.
What we do inside the building
We asked
is
Bill
our
Birch,
responsibility.
we asked Bill Birch for an estimate on what it would cost to replace that boiler down at the elementary school.
Well, yeah, I mean, the conversation I had was, I would like a list of break replace projects, reliability projects, capital projects, and our OpEx. Bill started that list last week, the one he presented to the Board of Finance. But by break replace, I mean stuff that's already broken that we've got to replace, right? We know it's the fuel pumps in the elementary school. By reliability, Bill has a feeling that boiler is going, right? CapEx, something we know we want to spend money, like a new welding lab, a new machine shop, whatever that next piece is, that's the CapEx. And then operational is the fuel piece, right? We put those 4 pieces together. I think we present that to the Board of Finance, and we let, if they decide that they don't want to put that money away, well, I don't know why we should be taking away from the educational budget to support core plant pieces.
Okay, I agree with you on that. That's a good idea. We'll do that.
I believe we've had this conversation before for years, and it's been an issue since I've been attending meetings
Oh, yeah.
for years, and obviously
Years.
it's put it off, and when the roof caves in, well, the roof's not gonna cave in because the roof is new, but if the roof well, yeah. If-
We'll
when-
bond it.
Yeah,
And we-
that'll.
Yeah,
that's-
yeah,
that
and
always
then
goes
the
over.
town ends up paying,
Right,
a
so you
huge
save a little bit
interest
here
fee.
and there,
Yeah,
so, yeah.
But again, I think, I understand putting it into our non-lapsing, but our non-lapsing doesn't go towards that town surplus number that everybody's looking to get up. So I think it, like I said, it serves us and the town well for them to hold our CapEx, but our CapEx is earmarked for specific building expenses. We're not gonna cut educational pieces out of our budget to patch the building back together. That's what I don't want to do is I don't want to cut pieces out of our educate. I don't want to cut pieces out of curriculum. I don't want to cut pieces out of
neither do we.
tech or any of that.
Nobody
No,
wants that.
and I get that. We don't want
No.
to support keeping the lights on.
But the problem is that this is their MO, hey, well, they just keep pushing this stuff aside. I mean, the track got pushed aside for 25 years until we were able to find a grant and, bond it. And get a vote, finally got the town together to say, hey, we need to do this. And then it's
The
like
buses.
the buses, the same thing with the buses. Every year, they promised us 2 new buses, and that's the first thing they cut out of the budget, was our buses that they promised us. So we're riding around, our kids are riding around in 19, 20-year-old buses that are held together with Band-Aids.
But I think if we put the earmarked dollar capital aside and we say the building is the town's responsibility.
Well, so weren't the buses. And now we absorb the cost of the buses. The capital cost of the buses are in our budget, that $250,000 a year.
Right.
Increased our budget because we are by leasing those budgets, which people in this town don't understand. We are actually paying for 2 new buses a year. Because DATCO is committed to giving us new buses. And the town doesn't get that.
But I think I truly think there's incentive right now because of that surplus percentage that they're trying to achieve. I think there's incentive right now for
Well, I
them to hold
understand.
that,
They
those
need,
capital dollars.
we don't want that. We don't want the town to go into default on their surplus. We don't want that either. Obviously, no, we don't want the state coming in, because if they're coming in, they would tell us what to do also. We don't want that.
So, I mean, I'm all for putting a contingency aside for building capital, but I truly think that should sit.
Oh,
in the
this
town.
wouldn't be for
Yeah.
building capital per se. This would be for what he needs that comes up, say. We needed, I don't know.
Annual
pipes for-
necessary
Building.
repairs.
But-
Building.
Yeah.
But the argument is that is part of the building, which even if we weren't here educating students in this building, it would still have to be done. Therefore, it's town responsibility.
Right.
The town doesn't help us out.
Right, currently.
Not enough.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So how do we address this outside of our own budget? If you're not adding to this budget, then how does the Board of Ed address this with the Board of Finance? Like, do I craft a letter? I mean, how is that gonna get presented to the Board of Finance?
I think we should present it to them as an option. I mean,
But physically how, I guess, is.
Well, yeah, but-
Kathleen as the chair, say,
Well,
we the
no, but
board,
We have to tell them the full cost of the lockers, right? We owe them that, remember?
Yeah.
So, and then in addition to that, we have a faulty boiler in our elementary school that needs to be addressed. So here's the list that we want to start putting away.
don't say faulty, say aging, aged.
Aging,
Yes, it's not
which
faulty.
is on the verge.
reliability.
Reliability,
It's a
reliability challenge.
liability, it's on the verge of failure.
They're old. Everything is.
That kind of goes back to the little chart that we need to put together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
To
And
be,
that's exactly what we show them, and we want to start putting money away for this. The lockers have to be done this summer. That's their time frame. Now, maybe we can baby along this boiler. Maybe not.
Right.
But we want to put at least half of that cost into this, with transfer accounts they're called, or what are those accounts called that they put the money away in, Bill?
Yeah, they have a municipal repair fund.
Okay. But anyway, we want to put some money in that for this boiler down there, because that's not part of the HVAC
But
project.
if we put money, if we do like what you're saying, Kathleen, does the town actually have to use it for that though, or can they?
Yes,
Bill?
Bill.
No,
Yeah,
No,
so that's always the concern, right?
right, but at least there's money there.
But at the end of the day, and I'm gonna ask this question point blank. If a boiler were to fail tomorrow in the elementary school, we don't have any, we're already in the red in our budget as it sits today.
Yeah.
We're going to the town anyways for that money. This way, we're at least giving them a heads up. Hey, we know what's on the horizon. Sorry.
Jessica has a
Yes.
question.
So wouldn't it be best to have that conversation with the selectmen? Cause that's where we had the conversation about the lockers, cause I'm pretty sure that came through on their side of the budget on the capital side.
it did.
So that's,
And I really, if you're heading down this path, I feel like it would probably make sense if you have specific items, like let's use the elementary boiler. I think that should be included, but we have a mechanism for the board of finance to consider these items, and it's our capital and transfer account page.
Mhm.
And that's, I updated the locker number the other day, somebody told me 93, so I popped that number in there so I wouldn't forget it. So we could just drop another line in there that say, Mary R. Fisher boiler,
Okay,
and put it in there. I know Joe Kasich over at DPW, he got me his requests last week. And it's adding up. Just keep in mind that page is gets looked at pretty critically.
Okay.
Because
So let's do that then, have Bill do that, but what do we really need this year?
Yep.
And pop that in.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments? All right.
This is what happens with 20 years of not fixing things or not replacing things.
Yeah, I.
Or holding everything together with Band-Aids. And yeah,
And I-
Bill is quite the wizard with keeping this stuff together, but there's only so far duct
And-
tape and baling wire will go.
Not only is that the issue, right, that we don't have the money to fix them, that that because our equipment is so old, that there aren't many people left who know how to fix
Right.
them. And so Bill is gonna be doing some repair and maintenance on the current boilers that are aging, just for, maintenance purposes. He's gonna be doing that, because he's worried that something might happen, but that's Bill Birch doing it himself.
Yes, MacGyver.
Well, and let's hope that the state comes out with another round of HVAC grants,
Yeah,
so we can hope.
it's gonna go under school construction moving forward, so.
And the article on special education was a good,
Okay.
good note from the state.
All right, you want to go through the presentation and,
So I just want to say that this is very loose and very rough. We went through and updated some slides. We, we didn't really put anything new in here. So if there's anything new that you'd like to be added to this, you're gonna have to let us know. We took Bill's budget drivers and Danielle did a nice job putting them on a couple of slides. And then I left special education blank primarily because the presentation that Dr. Jones gave last week, that slide he always shows is very dense and hard for people to make sense out of it. And so I don't know what we really want to present under special education to discuss directly his budget, but that busy slide, I like even my eyes, and I know what it means, are all over the place. So I don't know how we can condense that, but we started with this, remembering that on page 16, Bill Steglitz has not had a chance to revise that particular pie chart. And then we just took some of the slides from the last couple of years' presentation and kind of put it together. But this by no means is any kind of final product. We just wanted to give you something to work from tonight.
So. Page 9. Special education. Or pupil services.
Probably be pupil services, because that is the total.
Yep.
And so that other slide for special education should be pupil services.
Yep. And then under that, I mean, I truly think in the special education world, as I've been pushing for months, we need to highlight what falls under that pupil services header. Because it is essentially a catch-all for everything that's not gen ed.
Right.
Yeah,
hmm,
we'll list what those are.
And I think the biggest volatilities in that,
mhm.
Always.
right? No, but I mean, yes, pupil services is the biggest volatility, but the biggest volatility is within pupil services, right? It's the para, it's the staffing, it's the specialty staffing, the RNs, the RBTs, all those,
Contracted
right? Contracted services,
Yeah.
outplacements.
Mhm.
It's
One student just can change the whole dynamic. You might
Right.
need three more people for one student. If it's the worst case scenario. And
I agree. Yep, that's good. Yeah, don't.
even if they're not outsourced, outplaced.
And I think excess cost grants great to talk about, but the only ones who are really gonna understand what the heck that means is the ones who've been through the formula a million times. Because they changed that formula like the wind blows around here.
And it's not all that much money. For the money we spend, $340,000
Yeah.
is
Right.
It's, they're not doing us any great
It's
favors.
gonna go down next year too. Oh, it's gonna go down because some of our students are not gonna be in that bucket. And so that will go down. Good news is we don't have to pay on the other end, but it will go down. I'll work on that slide.
I think. I don't know best where to put it, but I know. We have had discussions about what are potential wild cards that can get thrown into our budget next year. One of them is what if 15 kindergarten kids show up? Right? That's another kindergarten classroom, another teacher, another, right? That knocks that one out of the park. I'm trying to think of any other potential wild cards that may show up.
ELL,
Yep.
Where are you? What page?
That was
Not
just
with-
general,
Oh, okay.
like, where are we gonna shove them in here? Because
Okay.
they're,
I'll find a place. Actually, well, yeah, I'll find a place.
Okay. I'm on, page 11 here. Can we? Like RBTs, what's an RBT?
Registered behavior
Yeah,
technician.
let's write those out. I mean, you know. People don't understand those. I know that's right. You guys understand it.
Even if it doesn't fit, even just reg behavior tech
Yeah.
would be better than RBT.
and I saw it earlier under the paraprofessionals, but if it's a head count, we should be putting the head count next to it in parentheses. So if there's, are we paying $190,000 to one RBT? Guys,
Right.
I'm quitting and going getting certified.
No,
Hey, I'm gonna become one of those.
how many? Yeah.
Well, they did pluralize it, so, but
Eliminated position benefits, that's 5, right? Sorry, same page 11,
mhm.
left column,
5.
5.
This is 10%, per USI, you're referring to the health benefits there, right?
Correct.
I'll put health benefits up there. This. Oh, that's transportation, that second one.
2025
Yeah.
budget impact as transportation.
That's what that is, right, Bill?
I'm sorry.
The one on page 11, second bullet down. It's transportation, right? The 5%.
No, that whole section is benefits.
All health,
Yes.
okay.
So
Remember, that's a tricky one to explain, in that we budgeted 2025 benefits too high.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the time, when the budget was finalized, USI was telling us we were gonna have a 5%
Oh,
increase,
that's right, health
but it
benefits.
actually came in at less
Right
than
there.
1%.
I think tomorrow you and I can figure
Work
out
that.
some wording. Yeah.
We have to make this clear, because one,
yeah,
we
'cause-
don't understand the acronyms.
well, this also looks like you're now taking like what like that there's a variable in what you're budgeting for health insurance.
I don't know what.
To the
USI
negative.
stands for.
There is.
There it is.
So that accounts for how much of a variable that 128 is,
that-
what
That
percentage?
total of 63,390.
Yep.
If you look at all the benefits,
Mm-hmm.
they're actually down,
Okay.
and it's because of, well, really the three things above it. The fact that 2025 was too high because of the 5% budgeted increase. coverage changes that actually kind of, I guess, helped us this year, and then the benefits on the eliminated positions went away.
Okay,
So all of those more than offset the expected 10% increase.
so I understand that 225,399 is the 10% increase from what we originally budgeted for fiscal year 2025 before the actual
Yes.
increase we received.
Right.
So then that negative 128,868
Now,
Um,
you could
for-
add
for
those
that.
too,
to, okay.
if you wanted to. I just wanted to be clear how
Mm,
we got to the change.
I just think that's might be a little too confusing for,
Yeah, keep in mind that this
Yeah.
was put in here sort of as a placeholder to react to, and this was pretty. When this version was drafted, it was to walk the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance through the budget changes, so it could definitely be. Even summarized a little higher level for this presentation.
So tomorrow, can we work on that
Absolutely.
kind of?
I mean, maybe even for town, for the town presentation, just break these into just benefits. And it's a negative 63,392.
Yeah,
Right, and then, so you could.
with some little note.
You could
Yes, Bill.
literally take the total of each of these categories.
Right.
Wordsmith a bit on the title of each, and
Yep.
then elaborate on them, whoever is presenting. Would elaborate on it, and I think in my experience, that's better.
Yeah.
In a presentation environment like the public meeting.
So we can-
Otherwise, you end up walking through this and talking about 382 lines, and people want to understand it. In 5 or 6 big pieces, and I was joking with Melinda today that you could get up there and say contracted salary increases and special ed increases. And a bunch of
Yeah.
that kind of offsets and moves around, but that's really what moved us.
Yep.
From last year's budget to this year's budget.
So we could almost take the total in each one of these sections and just speak from it, but have a bullet there and
if you-
reduce this down
Look
to
at
one
where we
slide.
settled on the same
Yeah.
slide
Mhm.
last year, it's very close to that, maybe just a skosh
Okay.
more detail.
Well, it's almost like taking slide number 9 and adding another column with the dollar amount.
Yeah.
I hate to say it,
Yes, we could do that.
right? It's almost like taking, and maybe adding a couple more rows, but. Taking
Use this
slide number
for-
9, adding a column with a dollar amount next to the budget driver, so it's all on one page.
Yep.
We're happy to talk about it in as much detail as possible, but this is it. It's a snapshot.
Well, so like, one of the things that I have to do at work is executive summaries, and then all of my backup data sits in the backup side of the slides, right? Because nobody wants to read through eye charts.
Pretty much what Amy does. She just shows these types of stuff.
Correct.
Talks to it. Yeah.
Her budget is very narrowed down and then she speaks from
Mhm.
those
We worked
bullets.
very hard to,
Mhm.
Amy embraced that approach beyond my greatest expectations and hopes.
Let's do it.
And it-
Let's do
and
It
it.
really boiled it down.
And
Is,
it works, and
Yeah.
it works. She doesn't go through all the, I mean, we used to have 30 pages that, and people were,
the,
I do think you run a real risk of losing the audience. if you
Yes.
get into-
No, and it works for her, and basically, that's all you need to talk to. This is what the budget is. This is, it increased by $957,000, basically. And here's where it increased, this is why it increased, or what, and here was where it decreased, and hey, aren't we good? Pat ourselves on the back.
so
Okay,
I had a question on 12, and I actually had this question last week on the plant line. The water, the 13,660, is that water and sewer, or is that just water?
That's just water.
So are we looking at a sewer increase as well?
No, so we're not expecting a sewer increase this coming year. You never know, because they're putting the budget in there
Right,
right now. Last year, there was no increase. as of right now, it's flat. But it's still early. That is unfortunately just the Connecticut water rate increase. So,
I mean, another potential budget buster risk. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough to
No.
knock out a,
yeah, it wouldn't be a lot, but it would. It could
13,000?
possibly be up. Oh, no, it wouldn't be 13. I think the sewer bill in total was 20
Could
something.
drill a well.
okay,
In total. So it would probably be, maybe 3,000 or 4,000.
okay.
Instead of field trips.
Yeah, I mean, it's something, but the little, every little bits of
Yeah.
something add up, so.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a risk because they, health insurance is another one of those risks, right?
Yep.
We don't know what that's gonna be until after the budget's settled. We don't know what the sewer is gonna be until the budget's settled.
So we'll work on collapsing all of this into some bullets. And then with some notes for whoever's gonna do this portion of the presentation.
Yeah, I mean, again, after the last slide, throw it all into backup. Like.
Yeah.
Thank you, have a nice day, questions. The next slide is all the backup.
I understand where you're going, Justin. I think. Oh, I say this diplomatically.
Or leave the notes on the side. They don't have to be part of the presentation. that's
Maybe
fine.
in our notes.
Yep.
And I think we definitely should, if you could see the spreadsheet right now, you'd see it all. I've got them all kind of spilled out in tabs in here. Having anything that leaves in someone's hands should be subjected to the same scrutiny that we do on this presentation.
Yep.
And if we're going to apply that level of polish to all of our notes, we'll be working on this thing
Right.
until August.
No, you're right.
And yes, the backup, everything that makes it in here has to obviously be rooted in fact, and we have to have supporting documentation. But to be handing it out,
But don't you, on the document that you have on the website where people can click on the items in the budget, which
Yep.
gives the explanation?
yes, the object definition pages.
Yeah,
But
so
that's
the
it.
backup actually exists.
Well, yeah, there's at least a text explanation for every object. And there is statistical data in, like a lot of headcount data is in there in terms of average salaries or number of teachers and stuff like that. One thing that was nice this year, last year we created that. This year was an updating exercise. So the lift associated with that one wasn't that bad. And that's done. And it's been in your packet. I think it was in your packet for last meeting. So if you have any comments on that, definitely let me know.
Okay.
So tomorrow I'll take a crack at putting it together and then I'll come see you, Bill.
Okay.
Well, into slide 14, can we, I don't care if special education goes in parentheses, but can we pupil services that one too, please?
Yeah.
On both the title and the last bullet on the bottom right.
Yep.
And then a total enrollment number somewhere on that page, I think we need.
Yeah. 797, at least it was.
Plus or minus.
Question. Where in these operating costs include the costs for us sending for like the adult continuing education? Is that under the high school budget?
No, it's nowhere. That's
District-wide.
district-wide.
Yeah, that's not 2 million, right?
It's 100.
Yeah, that's a lot of money per student there. How many did they come back?
34.
34, and we're paying $55,000 or something?
Well, you gotta remember that the work study thing is part of that.
Oh,
And we do have quite a few of our high school kids, that number that says 13, that's the high school kids that work for us. So we get some, I'm gonna say that the Board of Ed directly benefits from that because our own students get work for the summer. So, there's a lot of GED in there. I actually have to do, I don't think this is the year for it. I think moving forward, I have to do a little more research on what is the criteria that a district would have to do if you did your own adult ed. And what, I don't know if we have the capacity to do that. And I think years ago, that's why you went to EastCon. Even bigger districts like Plainfield and Killingly go through EastCon. But I'm gonna take a look at the criteria on the state side. I don't know if it's something we can't replicate. It's been rolling around in my head ever since we brought in the welding program and thinking there's a lot of people that have graduated that may want to come back and get that skill. And we've got the welding shop sitting dormant at night, right? And so, is there a possibility of using that space at night for the community?
Is it worth it to look into a co-op or a partnership with Putnam Woodstock
I'm so interested.
for adult, no,
Oh,
for
you mean
adult
for adult
education?
ed. Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that. But I want to be a little bit more educated on what that will require before I start asking people what they think about that.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So the company I used to work for in Cranston, they churned out welders. It was part of the company had a welding school to it. And they churned out welders, I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks. And it was, it was more of an 8-hour day, but you can't feed electric boat fast enough.
Yes,
You just can't.
know.
And that was right there, Cranston, and those were adults that were getting these certifications. So if we could do that, making it more of a 12-week program, 4 hours a night or 3, whatever that is, that would be something, because if our facilities are as nice or nicer than there, that would be, I don't see why we couldn't. We just need to be able to pay the teacher, but it would have to be some kind of a tuition.
And I haven't had that conversation with Electric Boat and Synidia around making the facility available to them, and maybe they bring in their own trainers
right.
and their own stuff. So it is something to explore, and I do know that we've had students that have left, and since we've implemented the welding, too bad we don't have it again. And Electric Boat does train their own at New England Tech, but maybe it's an option. I just haven't had a chance to circle back with them to talk about it. But it is something to look into, and that whole adult ed is I need to become more versed on that.
In your spare time.
Especially if we can improve the program for the community. I mean, that it is the community's dollars that are going out the door.
But this on page 14 does give the community or whoever is attending them the magnitude of what we're spending on pupil services.
Yeah.
So
It's a good slide. You developed that last year.
compared to what we're spending on the other schools.
Yeah.
I think it's a very potent graphic.
Yeah.
It's one they should send to that state legislative session.
Well, Senator Gordon will be here at the next meeting. We can give him a copy of it.
Yeah.
Slide 15.
Like,
So I just had a thought on this one, and everybody let me know how you feel about it, but I did some quick math on cost per student at our current enrollment. State's contributing $9,477 per student, and town taxpayers contributing $18,270. So I think look, granted, yes, you add those two numbers up, it's a pretty shocking number per student, but that shows that we're doing everything we can to get the most money we can from the state and maximize the most we can out of the local taxpayers' dollars.
And, just so everyone remembers that $7,534,000 That number hasn't changed, and I want to say at least 6 years. We are held, so when they recalculated the ECS formula, remember that our allocation went down, and I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it's somewhere on a chart. And that number went down, but we were held harmless in that category, so we didn't see a reduction, and it wasn't only us that were held harmless, several districts in the state were held harmless, but that first go around of the recalculation of ECS was not favorable for Thompson. And so now they're thinking about redoing the formula, and I just hope that the state remembers that there are those districts that were held harmless and consider that when they're doing whatever they're going to do, because
Yep.
I am very worried about that.
That 7.5 isn't ECS,
Yes,
right?
that's the ECS, yeah.
Yes,
ETS, yeah,
yeah, so,
The 7.5 is ECS, not the 340?
Right,
so hold on. I think we have confusion between special ed excess cost, which is 340,
Okay,
yes,
and
Okay.
ECS, which is education.
State aid,
cost sharing.
yeah.
okay,
Yes,
okay.
And as Melinda said, that number hasn't changed since I've been here anyway, and
no, it hasn't changed.
at least for 6 years.
And that's one of the few numbers that we've received the 26 estimate from the state. For budgeting on the revenue side, and unfortunately. it's the
Same number,
number.
the same
So-
number.
So just doing some quick flip back to page 7, right? That means that if that number hasn't moved, our number back in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. Our number back when was the town taxpayer number was about 10 million then?
Bingo.
Mhm.
Now
Right.
it's 14.
Right,
Yeah.
so I think that's a pretty, I mean. $4 million over 6 years that we've had to absorb
The state
because the
hasn't
state
done tax.
hasn't moved.
Yeah.
That's a pretty impactful,
And painful.
because my state taxes
Have
You
gone
know.
up.
have gone up.
Yeah, that's exactly correct, Justin. That number, if you did a net present value on that number.
So all the costs have gone up, including the state required costs, but the state hasn't given us any more money. It's criminal.
So can we play with this, I mean,
You
my
adjusted
opinion.
that number for inflation?
I'm sorry, Christie. Oh.
We should do that.
Can we play with this chart a little bit and potentially throw a line in there at that? Whatever that 2019 number is on the
Which page are you talking about?
page 15?
Yep.
So where we've got this $14 million chunk,
Yeah,
right? We just talked about that back in 2019. This piece of the pie, I mean, our budget was smaller, but the piece of the pie that the taxpayer had to contribute was much lower. The state hasn't moved, but we have. I just want to try to identify that a little bit.
Actually, if you could pull up, make a similar graph from 2019. I don't know if pull up the numbers. I don't know how hard that would be. It's only
Maybe
3
one-
numbers.
Top left and bottom right, I mean,
It would show.
19 and today. Just to highlight the fact that the state hasn't moved their
Yeah,
number.
just the 7.5 for inflation back to 1999.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, even 2000, adjusted back to 2019.
Oh, that's what I meant, 2019, yeah. I don't know what to say.
I don't want to get too crazy on that one, but I think just a line.
again, I think that's a great point to bring up.
Yeah.
In the
Oh, it's
discussion.
tremendous.
Okay.
To say.
Sure.
Justin, it's a terrific point. I mean, it really does drive home the fact, I'm afraid if we shade this. I like the idea, if we're gonna do the 19 look and the 25, 26 look, we should have 2 separate pies.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be better.
I get it.
That would be great. Just bring that number back to 2019.
And just show that the state hasn't moved a dime.
But yet our state taxes have gone up.
Yeah,
And yeah,
inflation's gone up, state taxes have gone up. Guarantee you our gas tax has gone up.
Yeah, well,
Nobody's touched, that hasn't trickled down to us. And they still boast the surplus.
yeah, that's the other part of that.
But they also say that they're pro-education.
Yeah, You're
Well,
right,
they're
Tom.
working on that according to the CAVE thing I got, that they're working on
See it.
increasing education funding. We'll see.
I-
We'll see what happens.
I think we can punt 16 this year.
But that's a
Just don't,
darn good number to have.
I just always worry about that category where it said we were, kept harmless. Remember, there was I don't know what that dollar amount is, I'll look it up, but there was a dollar amount there that, technically, we could have been reduced. So, we weren't, but
Could have been reduced, so the state could have dropped that $7 million number more.
yeah.
Yeah, it was something like 63,000 or something like that. It wasn't a huge amount for us, but it was scary.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Every dollar counts at this point. I don't care.
Yeah.
if it's 6,000 or 63,000.
But some towns really got whacked.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Well, Fairfield,
Yeah.
yeah, they
Not
got.
so worried about Fairfield. They've got
No.
money.
Well,
They can
Well,
figure out their.
They
own
only
nonsense.
get like 3% anyway,
I think so. I think 16 would be right.
but that would be a great number.
Okay, we'll work on that.
I
Mm.
think. So anybody disagrees?
I think the only thing with 16 is it kind of just highlights that this is the amount we can't touch, and these are the things that people care about that will get touched.
You whack something, it's coming in at
Yeah.
$3.2 million.
I mean, realistically, we need the whole thing.
Right,
But-
realistic, we need the whole thing, but this is the only section where if we don't get this passed as we're presenting it, this is where it's all gonna come from, and if you care about these, then get your butt out to vote. I filtered myself, you're welcome.
Yeah.
No, well,
And under the other expenses.
Yeah.
That should include math lab.
yeah,
Yep.
because it's in this budget now.
Okay. So then,
I mean, but the other thing, and to be really honest with this chart, the other thing that can chew into that 15%. And I
Plant,
please, well, plant's one of them. Plant's one of them, which I still think should fall back to the town, and then pupil services can chew the snot out of that budget.
mhm.
unbudgeted pupil services.
Mm.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Surprise people.
Well, I think that should probably be like on the note part of it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's not one of the other expenses, but that's what will eat the other expenses.
Right. Now, because that's the only place we have to go, because we're obligated. That's
Right.
no matter what, that's, as you said, that's our most volatile cost. Can't really budget for it.
And I always try to remember to be sensitive about the fact that although it's an unbudgeted expense, it is obviously taxing on our budget. There are still children behind that whole picture.
Right.
That we have a ethical obligation to support appropriately, and Chris will always say, free and appropriate.
In the least restrictive environment.
Environment. Yep.
So, I mean, let's not lose sight of that when
Right.
we're presenting, because there are people's children behind that.
Exactly.
But, and I think disconnecting the children that are behind it from the fact that it is the biggest volatile number that we face annually. I mean, I'm not trying to demonize the people. I don't think any of us here are trying to demonize the people services.
And I'm not accusing you of that. I just want us to be sensitive.
Yeah, that's why I want to use people services and not special education,
Gotcha.
because people services doesn't, it's everything, right? Like we've talked about. So it softens that a little bit, but this year, look at this year alone.
Yeah.
I mean, Phil's been able to tell Chris that, he's not in the black since September, so.
Okay. You guys can just speak out when somebody else hasn't spoken, because I can't, you're behind me.
The one thing over here, and I know it's probably just a small point, where it says facility upgrades.
Yeah.
Upgrades to me always sounds like you're
Mhm.
going above and beyond. Should that just be facility operations?
That's a good point.
Where,
Operational maintenance, he's on slide 16.
oh, I see it
Bottom of the
now.
left.
Yeah, that's a good
Or
point.
just facility continuance.
Facilities.
I just did
Repair and maintenance.
facility
Yep,
repair and
yep.
maintenance.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's a good point,
Thank you.
Tom. We're not upgrading, we're just trying to maintain.
Or duct tape.
good
Duct
point.
tape.
Duct tape and super glue.
Yes, it holds it longer.
Good point.
So. I'm. Slide 17, I get hammered on at work for this all the time. If I put discretionary or other in any pie chart, those are the immediate red flags that my bosses and my finance directors go to
Okay.
instantaneously.
It's not discretionary. We need
We
to,
don't have any discretionary.
We need to
Okay.
say what it is,
Yep.
I would say that that's R&M.
repair and maintenance.
Yeah, same thing with the other is the R&M, and that's the chunk that gets chewed out.
And it's only, total is only $22,000, exactly, it's not.
Mhm.
It's
So are
our-
you saying add that into the routine maintenance?
No, I think that would be, we need to give it a fancy word, like a,
yeah.
nice to do operations and maintenance, or
Wish list.
$22,000.
not even
I
that.
mean, like,
Discretionary
this is-
could be emergency purchases or emergency.
but if we're going to
repairs.
the town for that additional line item, they're gonna be like, then why is that in here?
Yes, but that little bit of money
Mhm.
could mean that the sink fell off the wall in the bathroom.
Okay,
Right.
emergency repairs, emergency
See,
repairs.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think that's a great example, Melinda. The toilet fell off the wall, the sink fell off the wall.
It didn't just
has
fall off the
happened.
wall, somebody
The-
sat on.
So Christmas break, the pipe breaks over the machine
Yep.
shop,
Correct.
right? That's where those discretionary dollars come in.
Yep.
The $15,000 temporary fuel pump in the elementary school.
Offhand, when was the last time the property and liability insurance was shopped?
It's shot by our brokers every
Every year?
year.
If it's not, I know a guy.
I'm just asking,
Yeah,
because
we
at
have a
30,
meeting coming up next week, this week, with the brokers.
Yeah.
I know. It's just a lively bunch.
insurance is, it's boring but necessary.
Yeah, you're.
So I'm looking at this, I got the numbers from Mr. Steglitz this evening. But I think one of the things I'd like to put on this plant operations and budget overview slide is the 2019 look versus now, because I don't think it's moved much.
Hmm,
You know, cost of everything has gone up, but I don't think this has moved much. So I'll look into that one and send some numbers.
we should have that somewhere.
I'll ask Bill Birch what other is as well, just in case there's some other title we can put there.
Probably gorilla tape. Honestly.
I mean, I would
It's a lot of
honestly, I'd roll that other into the discretionary and,
Yeah.
or into the emergency, whatever.
I'm trying to look up on my thesaurus here, but I'm not getting any signal.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
Maybe 4,000 is Wi-Fi.
Once
Needs
we
to
get
be
our
bought.
new tower, then we will have better. service.
What's that gonna happen?
Issue.
anyway?
Switch to AT&T, you'll be fine.
Yeah, until your data gets stolen,
I haven't had that.
that you know.
Is that coming at some point this decade? Yeah.
It is. I haven't gotten an update on that, but they're working on
And
it.
that's going back behind the softball field or back over?
I think behind the softball field,
Yeah.
up in that area.
Where the water tank is.
No, on the
No,
other side.
Further,
Yeah,
So on like the cross-country trail side,
but not on. the
but
wall.
not on the
Yeah.
trail, okay.
But I can get an update from Amy.
No, I don't like any of these choices. It finally came up. Elective,
Mm-mm.
No.
permissive, discretional.
I mean, it really is emergency.
Yeah.
At discretion, it's not like Bill gets to sit there and go,
No,
think we're gonna do this today.
non-compulsory, optional, no, I like emergency.
Yeah, I think we have to do this today.
Well, Linda said the other day, when Bill walked into her office and play closed, Gino was.
Emergency.
You know we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I feel like doing this today.
He's got jeans and a plaid shirt on, you know, he's going up on the roof.
Yeah.
On the federal grants, are we on any sort of a timeline where these are being not renewed for any reason, or
Let's
are
see what
going,
happens from the federal government.
aside
but-
from that, but are we on any sort of a timeline on any of those?
No,
Okay,
those are all current numbers as of this year.
okay.
They don't give us numbers for next year yet, so I don't have those, but this is exactly what we're getting this year. And then our competitive grants have dropped significantly because all that federal dollars and all those competitive grants have dried up.
Okay.
So,
And the page 18, that the federal grants, is that from the Department of Education?
correct.
Yes, okay.
So the federal grants are based on us applying and having met criteria just to support getting the grant.
Yes, so we get an allocation based on whatever formula the state comes or the feds come up with.
Okay.
And then we have to write toward that allocation based on whatever programming and criteria that they require to use those dollars. And they're very specific. Bill knows because he just had to close out a few.
Okay.
So yes, they're very specific.
But and then
And
those
most
versus.
of them, honestly, not to interrupt, the big numbers, that's all positions. It's all salary,
It's covering salary.
especially Title I, IDA. That is all salary.
But that covers parts of the salaries, right? Not their benefits, not
It's pretty much salary.
step increases.
Yeah,
So it's a 1-to-1.
Yeah, it's salaries.
No. I guess what
it's not a percent, yeah.
it's covering the full salary of an individual, including their benefits, including no, just the,
Typically just salary.
okay.
Yep.
That's okay. And then the competitive grants, that's just not state and local, that is also federal.
Those
Station level?
come from private foundations, but the Alliance grant obviously is state. The school mental health was a competitive federal state grant. And then school readiness is a state grant. Arts for Learning is just a small little grant.
A lot of the private grants are pretty small. They're
Yeah.
Great and welcome, but.
They're small.
it's-
And I don't think I
About
captured them
5,000.
all. Like, I forgot the CERAC grant. Now I'm looking at this, so I can pick up the smaller grants.
So, mental health and specialist was, I'm sorry, state and federal,
It's state, but I think the original dollars came from the feds and
but
then
it's state now.
yeah.
And when does that grant end?
So next year, so this year it's at, funded at 118. However, next year it goes down to 70% of that number.
Okay.
So it was 100%, and then 70, it was a multi-year, 3-year grant.
And then after next year, there's nothing.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's the guidance counselor at Marriott Fisher and the BCBA behavior certified, blah, 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 up at the,
So look at that. Board certified behavior analyst.
yes, there you go. Thank you. Up at the high school. So those two positions are, after next year, it'll be something that we're gonna have to talk about as far as budget.
And then the Alliance District funding, are we confirmed for that number for this year?
We are, for this year,
For 2026, I'm sorry.
no, we are not, and
Okay.
that's why I wrote to our legislators about the fact that every year Senator Gordon and Senator Flexer have to make sure that were added in. I know from conversations around the state, they are looking at Alliance overall at the state level. So I don't know what that means for our 200,000, but what that means in there is our student support coordinator up at the high school, our circulation specialist. And what else is on
Late
there?
bus.
Naviance and the late bus.
Yeah. I know some Naviance software. It basically gets eaten up. And we're hoping that we can squeak out, depending if we get that 200,000 next year, if we can squeak out the halftime reading specialist, and that'll be something, will be grant contingent up at the high school.
Wait, hold on. You just said something that scared me a little bit. So none of these grant dollars are guaranteed for the next fiscal year. For us.
Only the school mental health specialist one, because we know we're getting 70%, but the remaining ones, no. They're given to us or awarded to us annually. Alliance, school readiness, Arts for Learning that I have. to
So against
apply.
this budget, we're good. These are our numbers against this budget, but
Correct.
next budget cycle, a lot of these are
Could
gonna
be bumped.
shuffle or go away. Okay. Okay.
So the Alliance grant of $200,000, that's because we're an Alliance school, we're such a bad school that we're an Alliance school, and the state decided, hey, you need some extra help because you're an Alliance, $200,000 is the best that they could come up with, and has increased in the entire time that we've been.
So, no, actually, that's not
decreased.
true.
We got-
We one year did get a significant amount of money. It was all during the COVID time. We got about 600,000
Okay,
that year.
let's not count that then, because.
But it wasn't COVID dollars,
Oh,
but
okay.
we did get a big chunk. Senator Flexer went out on a limb there and did bring in those dollars. Lucky for us, we weren't a one-on-one district at that time.
Right.
And we used many of those dollars for buying Chromebooks and laptops, because we didn't have many in the district at that time.
Right.
So, but 200,000 has been stable over the past couple of legislative cycles.
Again, stable is not good because everything else costs more. So it comes back to that state funding slice of the pie. It's bupkis, really. I'm not gonna say no to it, but
Totally.
it should have gone up. Should have gone up.
That
Should be at
does-
least 400,000 by now. If they're trying to,
I would just say this, there were years we didn't get anything. So
Yeah.
I'm happy.
so
We didn't
what's the
just hang
point,
on
what's
to
the
it.
point of relegating us to the minor leagues? So to speak, the Alliance District saying, well, you guys need some special help. Here's your special help but.
But let's lob on the fact that they also made us an opportunity district and didn't give us anything except technical help.
Yeah, so it's really,
They don't even pay for the paper that
Can-
we have to
can-
report on.
You're right about that, Kathleen.
yeah. Okay.
But anyway. Okay, do we have anything else that we want to discuss on this? We have a 5-year capital plan. We put an estimate of how much this stuff is gonna cost.
We could.
Just at the bottom, not each individual thing, just at the bottom of each year.
Maybe. You would
Uh,
kind of have to know the individual
I
costs
think
to
I
get
hit the
to the
individual
bottom.
ones.
Yeah,
And then my only other thing is the have to do's, right? Like the
Right.
TMHS law, and I don't know if we want to prioritize them in order as they sit or what, but like the lockers are a have to do because the
Mhm.
NEAS, great.
Oh, you want me to prioritize?
Highlight or bold them or something too. Yeah.
Something that's required, right?
Right.
We don't, it's not we're not prioritizing lockers, it's required or
Right, whatever was in the report that were,
accreditation don't.
Mhm.
happen. And then I think I would take out TMHS track maintenance. It would just say track maintenance.
yeah. That's a town property, so
Yeah, town track.
it should also be under
Point.
town
Budget.
capital. Yep.
Be under the town budget.
Well,
And-
all of the capital goes to the town budget, so this is kind of giving,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I
This is
still
good.
wouldn't list it as the TMHS track, it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is giving them a heads up, so.
Yep.
Well, and I think some of this stuff is already in Bill's budget. Right, that he's already budgeted to do. And granted, that's the first place where things come out, but I think we need to make it clear that we've been budgeting for some of these things, like gym floor refinishing, bathroom refurbs.
Well, then it shouldn't be on
Painting.
this, it shouldn't be on the schedule. This schedule should be for actual items that we're going to put into the town's budget. His schedule is in our budget.
Okay, then that makes this slide really
Yeah.
confusing because we said we're putting money aside for track maintenance.
That was the
Repair.
request.
Right,
Right,
because that's what we said we would do. I mean, we can
to show that we were going to be.
not let
taking-
it
Right,
fall apart again.
So let's be clear, this is a 5-year capital plan. Now, capital is going to the town. We request capital expenditures from the town.
Well, this is really gonna get updated because the boiler's nowhere here. So
Yeah.
if that's what we've gotta do, then
Yeah,
we
you
have
gotta
to
put the
change this
boiler in
whole
here.
thing around.
Yeah, Bill has a schedule
Yes, he
And-
does.
he gave us last week.
Yes.
This is what's in his budget.
Mhm.
He doesn't have the HVAC upgrades, because that's a.
that's part of the.
Well, yes and no, because there is some additional HVAC work that has to happen outside of the project. I don't
Okay,
want people to get confused on that, but there is other things, because remember the first phase, bulk of it is up at the high school.
Well, and on top of that, we, the Board of Education, are paying for the owner's rep, Bill Birch, to do the management of the project. Right? There are other companies out there who, they kick off a project like an HVAC
I
project,
think,
they
I
pay an
think we
owner's
have
rep
a
to come in and do the
schedule
management.
here, Justin, that should be a heads up to the town, what's coming. Capital is different than
Oh, I agree.
maintenance.
right,
I'm not disagreeing with you
Okay.
on that. I'm trying to understand what this is and what because it's a mixed bag as I see
right,
it right
because
now.
we
And
have
I wanna
TMHS
make it-
hallways, I'm assuming that's painting of the hallway?
Yes,
So would that be in Bill's regular budget and not something that would be going under capital?
that's right. It is in his regular budget.
Okay, so like
we
that,
gotta
there,
move that out.
right, and I think that's where Justin's trying to come from, is some of this appears to be already in Bill's
Right.
budget. And not necessarily under the capital, like the upgrade the security alarm system, is that something that he's already budgeted for? Is that something we're going to be asking for capital dollars?
So that upgrade security alarm system, this is last year's slide.
Okay,
We're sliding that over to FY 27 because we didn't put it in this budget. So that's gotta go over to 27. So this needs to be completely revised and it needs to just have the items that are not in his budget,
mhm,
that we are going to have in a capital cycle. And the alarm system, he did put in his budget. We took it out.
okay,
It's still working. So we took it out and thought we could kick that can down the road another year. It's like $60,000. It's not a small amount of money.
And I think if we really want to bring up the R&M stuff, which I think we should, flip it back over to that pie chart,
mhm,
this one,
Yeah,
and put a list of R&M activities
right,
okay.
that we're planning on doing for next budget season.
In other words, Bill's list.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but, floor refinishing, hallway painting,
Right. Not the lockers, because that's
because that's capital.
that's
Is-
actual capital.
Are we requesting the gym floor to be done under capital, or are we doing that as a repair and maintenance?
It's repair and maintenance.
Repair R&M. The only
like the-
thing that's going to be in capital this year, as far as I know, is the lockers, and we're gonna put the boiler for the elementary.
Okay.
Unless there's something else on this list he feels should be there, but I
Okay.
don't think so. Those are
Okay.
the two things.
and these bathroom refurbs.
Those are just on a cycle. We were doing a good job my first few years here of every year addressing the bathrooms, and then we kind of stopped.
Okay.
And there are bathrooms that need to be upgraded.
And I think that's another one that should go to the town, because the town uses the bathrooms every time they're here for a town meeting. Rec uses them when they're in the building.
It is technically a building, it's a portion of the building.
Right.
I mean, we do need them to educate, but if this building were to close, you would still have to provide maintenance to those.
So I have my taxpayer hat on. Which roof replacement are you doing? Because didn't you all just get a brand new roof?
Talking about bathrooms,
He's
Oh.
He's talking in
27, that's the elementary school.
that's the
roof.
elementary school roof.
That's the elementary school roof, Tom.
It's our new,
Maybe we should probably put that on there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
No, it is.
the new one is only 20 years old.
Right, but to the taxpayer, you just got a
Right.
brand new roof.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we only got a portion of the roof.
Well,
Right.
it was only 70% of the total 10 acres.
I agree. But
It's only
not
7
everybody-
acres of roof, Tom.
not everyone's gonna remember that.
No, you're right.
right.
Okay.
And Melinda, I think if we wanted to split this slide into long-term R&M, just so we could show that we have track maintenance in there, just so we can show
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Like the
Capital
bathroom.
and then
Long-term R&M.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and just to understand that we are paying attention to long-term R&M on the
Mhm.
gym floors, on the track, on the,
Bathroom.
yeah, you have
Curves
two,
on the-
there, you know. 5-year capital plan and then long-term R&M plan.
Yeah.
I like that.
Maintain so you don't have to
better.
replace.
I think it's 2 separate charts.
All right,
would
two
ask
separate,
me.
whatever, I
Yeah.
think that's a great idea.
even if we have to shrink that pie chart on the plant slide. Smaller.
Good idea.
Shove that stuff there.
I don't.
Whatever.
Oh, here.
We have enough meeting, yeah, need it.
Yep. Mhm. Good idea. Show it too, so it's not confusing.
I'm losing you on that. So
Bill's,
this
one.
plant and operation one,
yep, if we have to shrink that smaller and shove the routine maintenance
Oh, I
long-term
got
chart
it.
in there, and the other chart that we talked about. The 26, maintenance plan that we were doing, if we want
Yeah.
to shove that all on one slide, then great. Keep the plant with the plan.
okay.
Routine maintenance and then long-term maintenance, I guess is what he's saying. Is that correct,
Yes.
Justin? Yeah.
Keep. Don't let it fall apart again, because we just spent 1.5 million on it.
Yeah.
I like the word upkeep.
Right, I like
the
that,
word
that's good.
upkeep.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay, so we have some homework.
so the ones, there's that slide, the capital plan, we're pretty much agreed that we're gonna split that one. There's some,
We have to take items out of here that are part of Bill's part of Bill's budget, and we have to leave in here the actual items that are more capital related to the town budget.
Correct.
I got that right?
Mhm.
Okay,
then we'll have another one that is long-term maintenance, which is things like the
Yep.
the painting and the bathroom refurbs and the track maintenance and.
yes.
Yeah.
Ongoing cyclical upkeep.
Yeah.
You gotta do it. It's,
Mhm.
and we fall off that cycle and that's boom. So instead of doing a little bit one year and then, all of a sudden we've got 3 years worth of 1 year stuff.
Okay,
And then it costs real money.
I
where-
think one of the notes in the discussion for the ongoing cyclical maintenance is. I constantly hear, well, why can't we have volunteers come in and paint classrooms? Why can't we have volunteers come in and paint the hallways?
Somebody will get hurt.
I
Liability.
understand that. We have people in the community who do not understand that, so I think that's should a note of, for protection of the town itself. This is why we can't have volunteers do it.
But is that also not a violation against the labor?
That too,
Union,
right?
The union?
yep,
yeah,
Well, we
prevailing wage and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
We outsource a lot of our big painting jobs anyway. Small stuff, we have a crew do it,
Right.
But like the gym floors,
yeah, we
That
can't
has to
do
go
that.
that's
out.
outsourced and
Yeah.
that's professionally outsourced.
Yes.
You can't
And when he
have,
says refinish, he means strip
Strip,
down,
yep.
yeah.
because they have to go all the way down to the lines.
Okay, on slide 15, we're going
20 years
to,
varnish.
take that 7.5 million that we have in the, educational, cost share there and, try to get that back to $2019.
Maybe not even as a slide, but just to have it
Yeah,
where
there.
we can say
Yeah.
as a backup slide or something, just.
No,
I really-
underneath it.
I think
Oh,
having the
Just
pie
like-
charts is the
Yeah.
impactful piece,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
State piece hasn't changed,
Right.
but our local taxpayer piece has
Right.
had to.
Right, you
Right.
can just put it underneath. This is what it is in today's, what it's worth in today's dollars.
Really feel like saying, we're not doing this to you. The state is doing this to you in inflation.
Right,
And
in today's dollars, that 7.5 million's worth 5 million, maybe.
yeah,
Melinda, did we do any kind of update with Dr. Jones? Considering that Killingly might have their own Bradley program coming forth? Did we take our numbers back at all?
No, we did
Okay.
not. Well, actually, we have our own students to go in there and there've been inquiries about other kids going in there. It is a staffing issue right now with Bradley until they hire people. We're kind of in a pause. But
Okay,
once they hire, we're gonna continue with that. That means though, Tom, Killingly will be sending their students here. So,
But the last update, that was only like 3 anyway. So-
and if you read that article I said about special education, there is some incentive for districts to grow their own. But it
so,
led
yeah,
me,
so, sorry, go ahead.
it led me to believe if you had an existing program, that wouldn't fall under that. So I don't know.
All right, so the way that I interpreted this, and I just want to make sure that I read it right or heard it right. When Killingly comes out with their own program, even though let's just say it's 3 or 4 students that are currently with us,
Yeah,
we're gonna hopefully break even or be status quo, whether it's a cost savings for us from our own students, not outsourcing, or we may replace those 3 or 4 with other towns. Am I correct in saying that?
you are correct in saying that.
Okay, all right. I just didn't want to have us walk into a deficit, and now all of a sudden now we're scrambling again to try to offset the money.
Yeah, I hear you. But
Right.
just if there's an incentive from the state level, right, other districts are gonna try to create their own programs. So, but for Thompson Public Schools, it has always been a benefit. The cherry on top is that every 6th kid, every 7th student, we get that extra discount.
Are they taking other districts in, like,
Correct,
so they could?
they're
potentially-
competing.
So
correct.
Yeah.
the bigger,
That's-
the
That's
bigger,
the
fe-
goal.
the bigger fear behind that one is not so much them taking the students as taking the staff.
Right.
Right, we're already at a people services staffing, education, educational staffing crisis in the state. I think
You're right.
Chris said 170, or Dr. Jones said 170 something.
179, yeah.
We're already short, so they spent up a couple more Bradley schools and. that
We
number
were
jumps.
lucky, the last few hires we've recruited. And the last hire, Principal Granado recruited from Woonsocket, where she used to be a principal. So we've recruited some people into the position. And we're happy about that. But that we've kind of tapped out everybody we can ask.
Okay, so then we're gonna come up with a slide for the pupil services. Do we want to say special education or pupil services?
Pupil services.
Okay, that's been changed, okay. And then
Which
describe
includes-
what falls under pupil services.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with that too. Let's stick to that. Because there's a lot more than special education.
Mhm.
It's an umbrella.
Do you want numbers associated with that or just general bullets?
Pardon me?
Do you want numbers associated with that or just special education encompasses all of these things, all of these expenses?
Well, I think it would be helpful to show, like, what our percentage of special education students are compared to maybe our local, or
I
is
did
it
that.
DRG?
I just did that this morning.
Mhm.
And our percentages are not that far off from our neighboring districts. Brooklyn, Putnam. Yeah, we're all around 20%, 21%. Of course, that was last year's Ed site numbers.
Mhm.
I don't have the current numbers, but
Right.
We've been hovering around 24 for a long time and
That's-
and we're ahead of others, and so others have
Right.
come up.
correct.
Yeah, because I think the data that
interest-
Dr. Jones sent me in either June or September showed that we were high.
Yeah.
He says that we're 16th on the
That-
list. I haven't seen that list. I want to take a look at it, but when I went to Ed site today and I figured out the percentages of special ed students versus their population. I came up with that number, but I might not be capturing out of district placement, so I don't know. But I want to see some current numbers, but even without that, we were teetering around the same, so.
And that includes all services provided? Like everything that falls under?
It was the number of special ed kids versus the enrollment numbers, and I got a percentage. And I was just doing that for my own interest, but he might have quicker or more reliable numbers in his department, so I'll talk to him about that.
So if that number is correct, that would be a good number to put into that.
We know it's a quarter of our population,
Right.
but we include the 504s, don't forget. And we say that.
Yeah, well,
That's part of
pupil
people services.
That's all
It's
part of,
not. It isn't, it's not, because 504 is a general education accommodation. So although he manages it,
So then for those that are on a 504, that includes what, speech and language
No.
intervention?
No.
no,
That's
Not even that?
no.
504s follow you, so you can take your 504 like after you graduate into the
Right.
workplace, your accommodations. like,
It's more an accommodation. I have ADHD, I can't sit still in my chair, so I might need a flexible seating opportunity, or I might need to take more
Okay.
breaks than the next person.
And
So
then-
it's more of an accommodation rather
Longer
than,
time to take a test.
Right, so,
but is there dollars attached to it? Well, of course, you're not gonna let
right,
a student
but there's no
wander
way
around
to
by
identify
themselves.
those specific dollars either.
Yeah.
so they're not
Okay.
in that $5.5 million.
They're in there, but it's a small
They-
portion of it.
Yeah, they're in there, but it depends on where it falls. It depends.
Right.
It might be a gen ed para that walks around with the kid. I don't.
Okay.
Okay.
It's dicey when you're starting to talk about that because we
Right.
overlap services all the time.
But the management of those 504s, the record keeping behind
That
those
goes-
504s
is-
all fall under Dr. Jones' department.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, it falls under pupil service.
Right.
The management record keeping all of that, I
Yeah.
mean,
Correct. So we need to count it under that.
Yep.
And all the testing and anything else involved in that.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of it.
I mean, I think one of the really impactful bullets is how many screenings, referrals he deals with annually.
Yeah.
So Justin, you raised a good point because I was just gonna ask. 504s are basically unfunded by the state, correct?
Well,
Only-
I mean, 504s are a medical, and Kristen, please correct me if I'm wrong, the way I understand it, they're a medical diagnosis that allows you an accommodation or a diagnosis that allows you an accommodation to assist with your disability. So
Yeah.
if you need extra time on a test, that's written in your 504 plan. If you can't, like Melinda said, if you can't sit still and you need flexible seating or you need regular breaks during tests, that's part of your that's legal. At that point, it's legally mandated that they allow you these additional accommodations.
Right.
But yes, there's no excess costs grant
That's
funding associated with it like we do with other stuff.
Yes.
Right, but some 504s may also require special supplies or special whatever, which is unfunded by the state. So
Yep.
that's another tax burden.
Mm.
And burden's the wrong word. I don't want to use that. You know, it's another tax obligation on us as a taxpayer.
Well, I think Dr. Jones brought it up last week. Regular pencil sharpener versus an electric pencil sharpener,
Mhm.
Correct.
right? That's, I mean, it's small, but it's
Yep.
Student
impactful.
Correct.
break, they need a scribe.
Right.
Now you have to hire somebody to do that.
We got touchscreens now.
Yes, I know, but. But back in the day, that would have fallen under a 504.
Okay.
So Melinda, there's no dollar amount that's put on that type of a 504 anywhere?
I'll talk to Dr. Jones. Some of those contracted services, I don't know. I'll have to ask him how much of that.
There are some, I believe he has one or two supply lines within pupil services that help, and they're pretty small. Couple
Right.
$1,000 if I remember right, because I remember we discussed them as part of our budget.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Yep.
Should we include like what the average cost is for outplacement?
We can put it at the bottom and make it
I thought last year's slide on outplacement was one of the better ones that we've ever done in last year's budget. I don't know if we can refer back to that at some point, you know. He did a real good, Dr. Jones did a real good job, or whoever did that slide last year.
he did it.
Yeah,
It's just, if you look at it now, it's extremely busy. It's got so much information there that I don't know if somebody picking it up that doesn't understand special education will know what that all means, I guess.
It's very informative, but very dense and not good for a public presentation.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
yeah.
It's again, it's like the presentation Dr. Jones gave us last week to the Board of Finance. That was excellent. But you're gonna, like Mr. Steglitz said earlier, you're gonna lose that in 30 seconds in a general
Mhm.
audience.
Mhm.
I think
I guess you keep that, the master one for the person that asked the in-depth question.
Yeah,
You give a crib note, you know.
Mhm.
I think the outplacement dollars is important to note though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to keep this shorter and sweeter. Just the highlights.
we'll do our best to condense it down,
Yeah,
but get all the points that you brought in today, and see what we can do with it.
okay. I know we have a meeting set for next Monday. Do we have any more set up? I think we have
Just the
one
4,
more.
I think.
Just the 4.
Just got
Monday and then our regular meeting.
And then our regular.
Isn't there more down the road though?
I think
'Cause
there
I'm
was a,
looking at
there
my
was a
calendar.
contingent one, let me look.
Yeah, I thought we had one.
Yeah, there's budget workshop number 5 on the 19th of February.
Yeah. Okay, let us not meet on Monday. The 3rd, right? Are we, first of all, we're ready to adopt these numbers, correct? The numbers?
I don't think they're real numbers yet, are they? Oh, these
yeah.
numbers, these
Yes.
numbers are,
Yes.
yes. Oh, no, these.
No,
these are
no,
not, yeah.
these, they have work to do.
Yes.
But you could put this, you want this on the agenda for the 10th?
We can do that, or we can do it tonight. Or you want to do it on the 10th? You want
We
to
do it on the 10th.
Okay, we'll put this on the agenda for the 10th, so we have one more time to look at it. And then I would say that we meet again on the 19th to adopt the presentation.
So no meeting
Is that
And that will
You'll
give
send that
me
cancellation.
Right now.
Thank you.
at least a week to work on this.
Oh, Yeah, it gives
Mhm.
them some time to work on the slides. They
And then
can send
get it
us
out to
this,
you
and
ahead
then
of
we can
time.
look at the slides ourselves. And maybe make some suggestions and we'll have time to finalize it.
Okay.
Does that meet with everybody's approval?
Mhm.
Sounds good.
And then we have next Monday night off. Yay.
What am I gonna do?
I don't know.
Something will slide in there for sure.
Yes, cook supper for your wife and kids. I don't know.
Wow.
That sounded,
Yeah. Okay.
Rent a movie.
Nobody does that anymore.
Blockbusters. What am I not?
Even the last one in Bend is officially closed.
I never.
Okay.
You know, you need to block out some time for Bill Buncher and I. You could do that.
Everybody set?
Citizens comments.
Citizens' comments?
Oh,
We have a
citizens'
citizen.
comments. I have a citizen. Yes.
Just as a taxpayer, I just love to hear about the grant funding and the extra funding you get from wherever you get it. It makes me feel that you're really doing a job when you can get whatever on LCR side. But those slides to me were great to see. On slide 15, the project we talked a lot about, I just would say Thompson taxpayer, for the orange part.
Yes,
Oh,
The
okay,
taxpayer
yeah.
pays all these.
yes.
Yep.
And I hear and I understand, appreciate the state isn't doing their share kind of thinking. I understand that, agree with it. But if I'm a voter and I hear that state's not paying its fair share, you're asking us Thompson taxpayers to pay so too much. I want to vote against it.
Yeah,
Be careful. I
Yeah.
don't have an answer for you about how to
Right.
kind of approach it, but just if you might want to think about being careful about this budget's unfair because the state doesn't treat us right. As a taxpayer, what do I do? Or as a voter, what do I do?
Right.
My answer might be vote no.
And we've had that.
Doesn't help, I suppose. I understand that.
no, that's us, and as the Board of Ed, sitting here being angry at the state.
Yes.
And it doesn't help, you're right, it doesn't help.
But as a taxpayer and only hearing about we're paying too much.
Good point.
I think it's important for the taxpayer, so we hear every year, right? Why does the school go up? 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 Well, school's gone up so much because the state stopped contributing their fair share. I mean, it stopped 6 years ago, we said. So it's a justification. Numbers we can't change.
Well, I understand, I appreciate the dilemma, but I also gotta be a little careful about maybe. Some people might react by saying, it's not fair, I'm gonna vote no. They
Unfunded
shouldn't.
state mandates, but of course, we are the state. Our state taxes are
Are not coming back.
They're not
Form that
coming
they're
back
supposed to
to
be.
us,
Yeah.
yes, and a fair share of our state taxes are not coming back to us.
Maybe at the meeting, ask for the attendees to write to or contact the state senators. Representatives.
We're funding Hartford and
Or
Bridgeport.
just Melinda sending a letter, if the population sends letters, that might get their attention. Might really get their attention.
Having them
Getting
printed out for
I'm
them
not
to
saying
sign.
help support us, but if they really think that votes are behind it. They're gonna get their.
Daniel, remind me to invite Senator Fletcher to the February board meeting too. Senator Fletcher's coming.
On another, and I think more fun note, a little birdie tells me that your Turtle Lot Tigers defeated Wheeler this evening.
Yay!
So I understand that puts them in good shape for the conference title.
Woo!
Yes.
Anyway,
Oh,
Sorry, I
Tigers.
missed it. Must have been a heck of a game. What was the score?
they won by 2.
Oh, hey,
Be a good game
a
then.
win is a win.
That's exciting, yeah.
We'll take it. Okay. Any other citizens' comments?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Hey, that's it.